An NFL offseason filled with quarterback intrigue got off to a fast start this weekend as the Rams sent Jared Goff 2 future first-round draft picks and a third to Detroit for Matthew Stafford. This sounds like a fantasy draft or a fantasy football trade. Then, that's the reality of today's NFL. Teams know the only way to win is you have to have a very good / great quarterback. And they don't have the patience that they once did, waiting for a quarterback. Jared Goff had success with the Rams, led them to the Super Bowl in 2018, 3 trips to the playoffs, but the organization probably saw a glass ceiling here, and they decided to pull the trigger. This was not a surprise that Jared Goff was on the trade market. I guess it was surprising that there was a team that was willing to trade for Jared Goff. But Stafford was in the opposite situation. He knew that he could only go so far with the Lions, and the team decided he's turning 33. It's time to start over. And if you love NFL drama, the trade set a pretty high bar, but you get the feeling this will not be the last time we see a star quarterback on the move in the next couple of months. And you start to sort this out, and immediately I got text messages from people with the NFL who said, if this is what Matthew Stafford is worth, then what's Deshaun Watson worth? And the more I looked at it, I said, they have nothing to do with each other than they are quarterbacks who could be, and one was already traded. Because you wanted to get rid of Jared Goff's salary, his contract. That's why you gave draft picks to the Lions. And then you got Matthew Stafford as well. But this isn't, boy, if you gave up that. No, you gave up that because you had to have them take the salary of Jared Goff. And that's the difference here. The Rams are ready to win now. We know that. In fairness to Jared Goff, it always felt like when the Rams played well, it was the genius of Sean McVay. And when the Rams played poorly, it was Jared Goff is not a franchise quarterback. Especially lately, when the head coach and the GM both had comments separately that was less than flattering for Jared Goff's future with the Rams. But the Rams got a guy who has a higher ceiling there. And at age 33, I guess the big concern from what I'm told is just the medicals of the health of Matthew Stafford, because certainly he paid a price with Detroit. And, the Rams, I'm looking at a couple of things. The Rams got a good offensive line. They give up about a little less than an average of 1.8 sacks per game. Lions gave up 2.6 sacks per game. The Rams, that vaunted passing offense was not great. 11th in total offense, 13th in passing offense. So that makes sense for Matthew Stafford. Stafford isn't concerned about renegotiating his contract. Also, if you're the Rams, you have to look at the NFC. Brady's 43. Aaron Rodgers, 37. Drew Brees' future in New Orleans is uncertain. All right, let's go for it. You don't have any first-round picks for a long, long time, but I will say this about the front office. They have made some very good draft selections after the first round. They've done some pretty good job drafting, and that's important to remember here. They don't have first-round draft picks. And I thought if you make a trade with somebody, I thought if I'm the Lions, I want to make a trade with somebody who's not very good. Because now you're going to be taking a draft pick in the first round that could be 28th, 29th, 30th. I want to make a trade with somebody with a future first-round pick who's not going to be very good. Carolina, did they offer the 8th pick overall? Did Washington football team offer their first round? I've read where the Colts did not offer their first-round pick, but we'll talk to Albert Breer. He'll join us coming up, and we'll try to separate fact from fiction. But if I said who won the trade, I would say the Rams, because this is about winning now. You upgraded. And as far as the Lions go, the Lions' new GM used to be with the Rams, and therefore he has a high grade on Jared Goff, and they think that they're getting a quarterback not for just 2 years and then letting him go, but maybe they found a franchise quarterback who is 7 years younger than Matthew Stafford. Maybe, but the Rams did what they needed to do. The Lions did what they needed to do. I was just surprised that the Lions decided that they were going to take Jared Goff instead of going after that rookie quarterback and having that rookie contract. That was what my thought was going to be. If you were going to find your guy, bring in a young quarterback. But to make this work, the Rams sweetened the pot here, and the Lions decided that, yep, let's jump on it. So you have that trade for Matthew Stafford. No update really on Deshaun Watson. I think he's sort of scrubbed his Instagram account with anything that mentions the Texans. I'm still in the minority. I don't think that he's going to be traded. I don't think Matthew Stafford's deal has anything to do with Deshaun Watson and the Texans. The Texans are saying they're not trading him, but, for now, because who knows what somebody could offer in a situation like this. But if you get the head coach who's able to sit down, David Culley can talk to Deshaun Watson. Maybe you can say, look, trust me. But this isn't a long-term solution here with the coach who's 65. His first head coaching job, and he's 65. If I'm Deshaun Watson, I want out. J.J. Watt's not going to be there next year. You've already seen DeAndre Hopkins leave. We don't have anything. I got a good left tackle, Laramie Tunsil, and we gave up an awful lot to get him. Other than that, I don't have great weapons there. But I don't know if Deshaun is going to get his wish and if the Texans get their wish and they're able to keep him. I'd hate to be the guy who traded Deshaun Watson. I would hate to be known as the guy who gave him up. Here is the Texans GM, Nick Caserio, on the possibility of trading Deshaun Watson.
Just want to reiterate our commitment to Deshaun Watson. He's had a great impact on this organization, a great impact on a lot of people, a great impact on this team. And we look forward to the opportunity to spend more time with him here this spring once we get started. And, we have zero interest in trading the player. We have a great plan, a great vision for him and for this team and his role in our team. And we look forward to the opportunity to spend more time with him here this spring.
I would have asked if I was there in the room, will you be taking phone calls on Deshaun Watson? I mean, if you have no interest, then you don't even pick up the phone. But I'm curious if the Texans will take calls on Deshaun Watson. This program is brought to you by Simply Safe Home Security. Everybody wants to keep their home and family safe, whether it's from a break-in, a fire, flooding, or medical emergency. Simply Safe Home Security delivers 24/7 protection. Visit simplysafedan.com today. Get a free security camera. Some other numbers to factor in here. Jared Goff had 17 total giveaways, tied for fourth most in the NFL. Matthew Stafford had 11. Can they go back to being an offensive-minded team? Probably not with Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald, but they can be a more respected or feared offense. And you do have some good players there. Cooper Kupp and Woods and Higbee and Akers, Everett. They've got some players. Now let's see Sean McVay be a genius again here. Now you got Matthew Stafford, and let's see how that plays out. Also, there was a column by Michael Silver, and Michael Silver was pointing out that, and this probably came from Jared Goff, even though there's no quotes, but Michael Silver was saying that Troy Aikman went out of his way when he did Rams games to be very critical of Jared Goff, and that maybe that was being leaked to him by Sean McVay. But I'm guessing that Michael Silver, Bay Area guy, Jared Goff, Bay Area guy, they're probably friends, and don't need a quote there, but just the inference of Sean McVay would say to Troy Aikman, hey, these are the things that he's not doing. And I'm looking at some of these quotes from Troy Aikman, and, it's like Tom Brady. Once you leave, then we find out what the real story is. Here's a quote by Aikman. Bill Belichick wants the game in Jared Goff's hands. That's Troy pregame. Let's see, what else did he... It says, Michael Silver wrote, routinely trashed this season on Fox telecast, specifically those with Troy Aikman as the lead analyst. Goff could reasonably assume that McVay's words about his quarterback's play in network production meetings were far from glowing. He also says, he talked about an interception And Week 16's lost to Seattle. It just doesn't get any uglier than that. Troy Aikman on Jared Goff's interception there. So that's NFL.com's Michael Silver publishing a column yesterday with information from Jared Goff's perspective without quoting Jared Goff. But Troy Aikman routinely trashed Goff when he and Joe Buck were assigned to call the Rams games. Ooh, the plot thickens. Plot thickens there. Yes, McLovin.
Silver, not just a Bay Area guy, a California Bear, just like Jared Goff, same college. Troy Aikman, UCLA. I can see the Pac-12 ramifications.
Ooh. All right. You got a poll question today?
I already put up who won the trade, just to get the consensus, and I'm shocked at the result. Not shocked, but who won the trade? The Lions get Jared Goff, 2 first-rounders and a third-rounder. The Rams get Matthew Stafford. Almost 60% said the Lions. You just had me running through a wall for the Rams next year when you mentioned all their weapons and Cam Akers. I don't know.
We don't know what's going to happen with these first-round picks. That's why it's hard to give a grade to this. And then who is making the call on drafting players? You know, if you said you got a front office that has a history of making great drafts, then I'd go, okay, then I feel pretty confident that they're going to turn this into something special. The Rams made the move that they thought they needed to make. They thought that they were maybe a quarterback away, and they got Matthew Stafford. I would say the Rams won because the Rams have to win. They do. That GM, Les Snead, he's the one that gave Goff the extension. And then you got Todd Gurley, gave him the extension as well. Those were 2 extensions that we criticized. We were critical of because it felt like you don't need to do this. And I would not pay a running back in his second contract. But if you get Matthew Stafford and you got a chance to go all in and win a Super Bowl, then great. Even though you just traded a quarterback away who did help take you to a Super Bowl. Yes, Eden.
I just have a hard time looking at it to say that the Rams won when they gave up like 2 first-round picks to get Jared Goff, then signed him to a big extension, and then gave up 3 first-round picks to get rid of him. And that, yes, you won. I just can't wrap my mind around that.
No, I know.
It's like a 5-year failure, or like 7 years has been impacted by that.
But they did make a Super Bowl. They did make a Super Bowl with him. Now, you can say, well, now, Goff has had some moments where he has been very good. I mean, a couple of years ago, Jared Goff was good, very good. And then all of a sudden, I don't know what happened. Maybe if you know your coach doesn't like you, doesn't have confidence in you, that might affect you. Maybe if he started to restrict the playbook, maybe. Yes, McLovin.
I mean, he has beaten Drew Brees and Russell Wilson in the playoffs. Those are 2 surefire Hall of Famers. I know the Russell Wilson one wasn't.
No. That's on Aaron Donald.
That was Aaron Donald. But he came out there he hit Cup for that touchdown at the end. It wasn't terrible.
I thought he played, considering that he had a pin in his thumb, he played well. In those conditions in Seattle, he played well. Is that a reason enough to keep him? Apparently not. Yeah, Paul.
Matthew Stafford's last 2 healthy seasons, 2018 2020, he threw for less than 4,000 yards in 16 games, not 12 games. He threw for 3,700 yards, 21 touchdowns, and 11 picks 2 years ago. Last year, he threw for 4,000 yards, 26 touchdowns, and 11 picks.
Yeah.
10 picks. That's pedestrian in this NFL. I know there's some team around him issues.
Well, I think the Rams would probably take like a 30 touchdown, 12 pick season here.
2 years ago, that's what Jared Goff had. He had 4,700 yards, 32 touchdowns, and 12 picks.
Yeah. But that's when Sean McVay was a genius, and that Jared Goff was on the fast track of being a very good quarterback. He went to the Pro Bowl back-to-back seasons, which I know, by the time you get to the 5th alternate, but he just cooled off then. So I don't know if there was a turning point. That's what I'm curious about. Was there a turning point where the Rams said, as I think the Niners have found out, we can't go much further? And I do think that the Niners were trying to get Matthew Stafford. And Stafford has a home, I believe, in Newport Beach. And to be able, he wanted to go to, I think, San Francisco or the Rams. Those were the 2 spots where I think that he was going to be headed. Yeah, Paulie.
I don't know if you know this, but I did some research. Matthew Stafford close friends with Clayton Kershaw. They went to high school together. Another connection.
Yeah.
Nobody's bringing that up. I'm first.
I think we bring that up every time we interview Clayton and every time we interview Matthew Stafford.
That's right.
Pretty much. It was last Friday at this time. Albert Breer, senior NFL reporter, lead content strategist for the MMQB, joined us. And he dropped a little nugget that he thought Matthew Stafford could get traded before the Super Bowl. And I go, wait a minute, you must know something. And I thought, let's have Albert Breer on to take a victory lap. Albert, congratulations. So what did you know and when did you know it?
I think basically I knew that things had heated up and that the Lions were of a mind to move him before the Super Bowl, in large part to get ahead of the market. And I think this was sort of smart, Dan, in that, they recognized that things could get chaotic with quarterbacks over the next couple of months. We've all talked about that. And is Deshaun Watson going to become available? Is Sam Darnold going to become available? And so I think their logic was like, let's put this guy out there so we don't have to worry about supply and demand screwing up an asset. And, let's give the kid Stafford, let's give him some certainty. Let's give the other team that's trading for him some certainty. And let's maximize the value of what we have. And so I think, from that standpoint, it was smart to do it because a team like the Rams, other teams involved, Washington, Carolina, they had an opportunity to go after a guy who I think most teams view as a top 10 quarterback, without any certainty that anybody of that level is going to be available again during the offseason. So, yeah, I think it was just sort of a smart read of what might happen the next couple of months by the Lions.
But to make this deal happen, the Lions had to take Jared Goff. Mm-hmm. If this was Teddy Bridgewater in Carolina, were they going to have to take Teddy Bridgewater? Was this the formula by these other teams that you're going to have to take our quarterback if we're going to make this happen?
Yeah, so I think it's sort of a two-way thing, Dan. Like I think on one hand, you're right. Like the Rams were going to have to offload Goff. It wasn't going to work if they couldn't offload Goff, and it would have been tough to move Goff. If quite honestly, it would have been very difficult to move Goff if they had traded for Stafford, had both on the roster. So the cleanest thing for them to do was to offload Goff as part of the deal. That said, I mean, I can tell you this, like Dan Campbell had communicated to people in that front office that he didn't want to be up a creek at quarterback. Like he wanted a guy who he could at least compete with for the next few years. And so, I think from that standpoint, Goff was sort of attractive to him, and that they had, he has, almost 5 years of starting experience, started half of his rookie year and has been a starter since then. He started in a Super Bowl. And I think that because of that, like there was a level of interest in Goff, and that at the very least, he can be a competent starting quarterback for you for the next 2 or 3 years and buy you time to find whoever your long-term answer is. I think from the same, in the same sort of way, if you're trading with Carolina, obviously Teddy Bridgewater would be a guy that you'd mention. If you're trading with Denver, Drew Lock would be a guy that would come up. So I think with, a number of these teams, a quarterback could have come in play if those teams have been able to get to the sort of draft pick comp that the Rams are willing to give up.
What's the downside for both of these teams?
So the downside for the Lions is that the Rams could be really good over the next couple of years, and those picks might not be all that valuable. I think if you look at what was in front of the Lions, they had an opportunity to get the 8th pick in the draft. As part of a pick swap, I think they probably could have wound up with the 9th pick too with Denver. Now they would have had to send a pick back, which devalues it a little bit. They could have had the 19th pick, Washington's pick. And so part of the risk for the Lions here is you don't know what's going to happen to the picks in 2022 and 2023. And if the Rams are really good, then those might be de facto second-round picks. So that's the risk for the Lions in doing this deal this way. The risk for the Rams is that, they've become very, very top-heavy in their salary structure. And there's questions about whether or not you can put the right sort of support system around Matthew Stafford. Obviously they're a little bit, they've had their issues in the offensive line the last couple of years. How does Andrew Whitworth hold up at left tackle? What happens if one of their big salary guys has an injury? So because of the way they're structured now, it leaves them in a position where they're going to have to hit on a lot of, 3rd, 4th, 5th round picks. in order to make up the difference and build depth in case they do lose some of the big name guys they have.
And they've been pretty good, though.
They have.
You know, they've done well from the second round on. So we're talking to Albert Breer, the senior NFL reporter, lead content strategist for the MMQB. Is the haul that the Lions got in any way related to what it's going to cost to get Deshaun Watson?
No, because, I think part of the haul the Lions were able to get was taking on Goff's contract, right? Like, so there was a little bit of, and again, like the Lions wanted Goff, like the Lions like the idea of having Goff as their starting quarterback, at least as a placeholder. But there was an NBA element to this, right? Like that, they had to, the Rams had to give a little bit more to get the Lions to take on Goff's contract. So that definitely exists. Shoot, I lost my train of thought there, Dan. What was the question?
The Texans and what it's
the Texans. Yeah, I don't think it affects that much. I mean, Deshaun Watson's a 25-year-old superstar quarterback. I think you start with 3 first-round picks probably if you're talking about dealing for Deshaun Watson. And again, we don't know if he's going to be available. I mean, right now, I can tell you where it stands. Deshaun Watson isn't returning the Texans' calls. And like the Texans are basically stonewalling anybody who comes to them inquiring about Watson. So, I mean, right now we're sort of in this giant staring contest and nobody really knows what the conclusion is. I mean, because we don't know whether or not Deshaun Watson is going to acquiesce and eventually talk to the Texans people. And we don't know if the Texans are going to get to a point down the line where they say, you know what? We got a first-year coach, a first-year GM. We can't start a program with this hanging over our head for the next 6 months.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I know that Nick Caserio said they're not, trading him or whatever, no intentions. But if I was in the press conference, I would have followed up by asking, are you taking phone calls, though?
Yeah.
Because that's what I want to know. Of course you're going to say we have no interest in trading him. And then see if somebody really wants Deshaun Watson, what they're going to give up. Did the Rams think that Aaron Rodgers was really in play?
Well, I mean, the Rams, I think the Rams explored the idea of Watson too. Like, I think the Rams were sort of looking at all of their options as, okay, how do we upgrade at the position? And I think part of it was that they felt like there was a little bit of a ceiling there with Jared Goff. And, they feel like they're in a championship window, number 1 defense in the NFL. And, a bunch of star players who are right in the heart of their prime, guys like Jalen Ramsey and Aaron Donald. And so, this is sort of their time to go and maximize what they have. So, I don't think that they felt like Aaron Rodgers was available, but, this is a team that sort of investigates everything. You know what I mean, Dan? They didn't want to be kicking themselves on the other end of the Stafford deal, and they find out a month later that Rodgers was available or that Watson was available. So, they definitely kick tires on those sorts of things to make sure, okay, we know the landscape now. We're going to go forward with Matthew Stafford as our target.
I was told last night by a source that the Lions said to Matthew Stafford, pick a soft landing. That we don't want a disgruntled former Detroit Lion because we have enough of those, our star players who haven't always been happy.
Yep.
That San Francisco was really in play, but then I didn't know what was going to happen to Jimmy Garoppolo. Was that a similar situation that Garoppolo was going to go to Detroit?
So, my understanding is, and this was the understanding a bunch of teams that were involved had, was that the top 3 for Stafford, number 1, LA, number 2, San Francisco, number 3, Indianapolis. And of those 3, Los Angeles showed by far the most interest. The Niners, my understanding is they talked to the Lions at the Senior Bowl, and things escalated fast. And I don't think that the Niners were ever going to offer the 12th pick. Now, they were willing to put together an offer, but I don't think they were ever going to offer the 12th pick. And really, I think that their idea was, okay, let's regroup over the weekend and, we'll put something in front of the Lions on Monday. And then when the Lions came back to them after things had escalated a little bit on Saturday, now all of a sudden it was what the return was going to be for Stafford. They were like, whoa, that's a little bit further than we were willing to go. So I think it was sort of a combination with the Niners of how quickly things escalated in the negotiation Friday and Saturday. And then also just, the fact that they're okay with where they're at with Jimmy Garoppolo and the quarterback switch there wasn't worth the 12th overall pick to them.
What do you expect to happen this week, if anything?
You mean as far as more trades?
Anything?
Anything? Now I don't think we're going to have as much action this week. Although I do think, you look at some of the like pieces of this trade, and I think you get a window into what could happen over the next, couple of months. And so I do think you'll start to see some of those exploratory phone calls. Look, teams are going to continue calling the Texans on Deshaun Watson until Deshaun Watson shows up and puts on a Texans helmet and wears a Texans jersey again. So
do you think Jacksonville entertains phone calls for the number 1 overall pick?
No.
Okay.
No, but I'll give you one though. I think the number 2 overall pick suddenly becomes really fascinating. I mean, I can tell you one of the teams that checked in on Stafford was the New York Jets, and I don't think that they were going to go where the Rams went. But you know what that is, Dan? I mean, a couple other teams that was sort of a smoke signal to them. Like, okay, if you're making a call on Matthew Stafford, by deductive reasoning here, does that mean you're moving on from Sam Darnold? And if you're moving on if you could be moving on from Sam Darnold, now do I put together an offer? You know what I mean? Or do I see what maybe you're willing to do with him? So, I think that there are certain parts of the Stafford deal that could lead to other things. And again, the Texans are naturally going to get calls on Watson, but now that some other teams that need quarterbacks and may want a young quarterback, see the Jets picked up the phone and call the Lions. If you're one of those teams, do you pick up the phone and call the Jets about Darnold? I just think it's fascinating. And that, of course, plays into the 2nd overall pick. Now are the Jets looking at Zach Wilson or Justin Fields there? That's where all of the moving parts with this are going to be so interesting over the next couple of months.
Oh, always great to talk to you. Thank you again, and congrats on your victory lap there, Albert. Have a great week.
Awesome. Thanks, Dan. I appreciate it.
That's Albert Breer, the NFL insider, MMQB, senior NFL reporter.